Hey everyone, Combo here, back with another Empires and Puzzles video, and today we are going to go over the May 2025 Soul Exchange rankings. I'm going to go over all 15 cards that you could get in this May 2025 Soul Exchange event, and I'm going to rank them from worst to first. I'm not going to talk about the best of the 10 soul options, the best of the 15 soul options, and the best of the 20 soul options. I'm actually going to mix them together and go through a ranking from worst to first. Real quick before we get started, if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and turn that notification bell on so you can be alerted of when I drop new content. And if you really love my channel, consider becoming a member by clicking the join button next to where it says subscribed, and you can get some additional information on perks of becoming a member, including early access to videos like this, some cool avatars, and some other perks as well. Now, before I go through my rankings, I do want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I do have some images shown of double limit broken heroes with masterclass emblems. These are the most recent images that I could find, so some of them may be a little bit off, but I'm pretty sure most of them are pretty up to date. And also, the stats of the cards that I'm going to be showing you are mostly all pulled from the game when we can see the max preview. And when that max preview is shown, it's going to show you the card as if you were to follow the talent path all the way to the left. So that's going to include the masterclass emblems for the attack at the bottom also. So if you are looking at more of a defensive type of hero, then you can pretty much add the fact that you can add at least 180 defense to that hero if you were to take the masterclass emblems to the right instead. And you could probably add some other health or shield nodes on that regular top part of the talent path also. So something just to keep in mind as we go through these card previews that I'm going to show you guys. And just because I rank somebody like 15th, 14th, or 13th or something like that does not mean that they are not a good option for you and for your roster and your play style. I play in a top 100 alliance, so my perspective on the game is going to be a little bit different than most people. So I am taking into consideration the current meta, the types of defenses that I see on a regular basis, but also trying to cater to the masses and talk about which heroes I think are the most effective, the most useful, and will have the longest shelf life in the game. All right, so before we get into the rankings, I do just want to show the image that Burks G came up with for all of our Soul Exchange options. So this breaks it down to the options for the 10 souls. We've got Voidar, we've got Gong Yu, we've got Cardinal Richelieu, we've got Milady de Winter and Teddy. Your 15 soul options are going to be Aramus, Jana, Torbin, Fortuna, and Smart Tongue. And then your 20 soul options are going to be Annubis, Costume, Meg Geary, Madhammer, Guardian Hippo, and Ferris. If you are not familiar with what Soul Exchange is, you're going to have the option of choosing one of these 15 heroes by trading in 10 souls, 15 souls, or 20 souls. What are souls, you ask? Well, it's going to be any 5-star hero that you have on your roster. It can be one that's leveled up if you really want to give that away, or if you started leveling it up and realized that they weren't going to be any good, you can give that up, but you do need to make sure that you do not have it locked, or else it's not going to let you select it once the event starts on May 25th. If you have any other questions on how Soul Exchange works, definitely drop a comment down below or reach out to me on the Line app, and then I can definitely help you there as well. All right, now coming in at number 15, we are going to have 10 soul option Gong Yu. Gong Yu is part of the Lunar family. He is slow mana speed, his class is cleric, and his ether power is boosted regen. He has 2 passives. The first is health recovery on ailment received. This character recovers 10% health when they receive a status ailment or a negative stack. And his second passive, which is extremely useful, all of the Lunar New Year heroes have this, the Disable Minions ability passive. Attacks and abilities of all minions owned by enemies are disabled. This does not include Mega Minions. This is only for regular minions, but still definitely a very useful skill. And then for his actual special skill, the Rejuvenating Elixir, all allies get plus 54% defense and a further plus 5% increase every time they are hit during 3 turns. All allies recover 1,000 health after 3 turns. If the effect is removed or replaced before the duration ends, they are going to recover 1,400 health instead. All allies are going to gain 25% mana after 3 turns. If this effect is removed or replaced before the duration ends, they gain 35% mana instead. This effect cannot be replaced with itself. So if you happen to be in Rush War and Gong Yu goes off 2 times within 3 turns, all of your allies will get the 1400 health instead of the 1000 health, and then the counter will restart again. But for the mana, it is not going to give you that 25% mana right away. You do have to wait the full 3 turns, so definitely keep that in mind. So not a terrible hero. I mean, honestly, none of these Soul Exchange heroes are terrible in my opinion, but I don't think he's the most effective. He could be a good support hero if you use him the right way, but at slow mana speed, there are a lot of what ifs that could happen in a war battle if you're going to be using him. Something to note though, he would be very useful in Equalizer War, because when the Equalizer effects goes off, then everybody's going to get that 1400 health and the 35% mana. So that's pretty cool. I do wish that it was boosted health, but it's just regular health. If it were boosted health, then that may increase his value a little bit, but it's not. Moving on to number 14, we're going to move over to Milady de Winter. She is part of the Musketeer family. She is also slow mana speed, wizard class, and her ether power is defense up. For her passive, all of the Musketeers have this ability to cover damage when they get hit with a special skill. I think it's like a 50% chance if there's only 1 Musketeer, 60% if there's 2, and 70% if there's 3 or something like that. And if they are in cover for one of your allies, then they'll have a chance to take the damage instead of that ally, and it'll be at a reduced percentage. And if they are in cover, then this passive is going to trigger also the damage on special skill plus cover damage. When this character receives damage from special skills or in place of a character in cover, there is a 60% chance of dealing 20% of the received damage on all enemies. And for her special skill, the Master from Manipulation, she deals 385% damage to all enemies. The caster regenerates 918 health over 6 turns. All enemies reflect dispellable status effect buffs they would receive to a random character on the opposing team for 6 turns. All allies reflect cleansable status ailments they would receive to a random character on the opposing team for 6 turns. So kind of a cool special. I do wish that she was average mana speed. Her stats are pretty outdated. You can see her total individual power is 1163. Could definitely be very useful in a rush setting if you're going up against a team that is heavy on giving buffs or ailments. If you can pair her with someone who has the ability to make it so that status effects are not dispellable or cleansable, then that would also make a huge difference, because then you'd be able to use her against somebody like Bernadette. Otherwise, she's going to dispel the buffs first. But Milady de Winter has probably the lowest individual power out of anybody we're going to look at, or maybe second or third lowest. Her stats are pretty poor at this point right now. Next up at number 13, I've got Fortuna. So Fortuna is actually a 15 soul option, but I really do not like this card, honestly, and that's why I have her ranked so low. So we're going to have multiple 10 soul options ranked above her. She is part of the Masked God family, fast mana speed. Her class is Rogue, and her ether power is Fiend Resist. For her passive, Cleanse on minion death. So she's going to start off with a small minion at the start of the battle as part of her family bonus. I think it has like 8% health and 8% attack. It's really not a lot. But this character is cleansed of status ailments when that minion owned by them is destroyed. That would also apply to any other minions that get added to Fortuna by any of your other allies throughout the battle. So if she gets minions added to her by somebody else and the minions die, then she's going to get cleansed of status ailments then also. And for her special skill, Bad Fortune, so she's going to first dispel buffs from all enemies, deals 150% damage to all enemies, summons a corrupted masked fiend to all enemies. The fiend damages the enemies with 55% attack every turn. The corrupted masked fiend absorbs healing and disappears after absorbing a healing amount of equal to 22% of its target's max health. The corrupted masked fiend gives minus 36% attack for its owner for as long as they have corrupted masked fiends. This effect cannot be cleansed. Honestly, the best part of that special is the first part where she's going to dispel buffs from all enemies. The 150% damage to all enemies is going to be extremely minimal, and then the fiends only have 22% health, and they're only going to attack with 55% attack each turn. It's really not a lot. And the effect from the masked fiends only giving minus 36% attack is really not the best of status effects. Just really not a lot going on with Fortuna, and honestly, I probably could have even ranked her lower. She also has a total individual power of 1172, so very weak there as well. Next up at number 12, we've got Teddy from the Bear family. He is average mana speed, his class is Monk, his ether power is Ailment Immunity, and he will cost you 10 souls if you decide you want to go with Teddy. There are quite a few Bear family members in this soul exchange, and something worth noting as part of their family bonus is that if you try to add a defense element to them, it's automatically going to give them a defense buff instead. And he has a passive, which is health recovery on buff received. So this character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack. So if you try to hit him with any type of defense down ailment, he's going to get defense up and then also 5% health instead on top of that. And for his special skill, the call to hibernate, he's going to deal 180% damage to all enemies, going to put all enemies to sleep. While asleep, the targets cannot attack or gain mana, and all damage dealt to the sleeping target is increased by plus 70%. The sleeping target is woken once it takes damage. This excludes damage from minions and fiends. All allies are going to regenerate 1200 health over 4 turns. So I actually have Teddy. I have a pretty advanced roster, but I've got Teddy. I maxed and single limit broke him a long time ago, and I just couldn't find a use for him, honestly. The sleep mechanic can definitely be very useful, but you need to make sure that you don't have any heroes that have any passives or anything like that that give damage, or any barbarians that are going to give bleed damage. Any of the mega minions that you have on your team also cannot give bleed damage. But ideally, if you want to use him and be effective, then you'd want to try to use Teddy and then just try to tile dump up the middle, so at least the other 4 enemies stay asleep. But as you get other cascades, then obviously everybody else is going to wake up. It would excite me a little bit more if the regenerating 1200 health over 4 turns was a solid heal, or at least boosted health over 4 turns or something like that. That would make him a little bit more useful of a support hero in my opinion. So not a terrible hero, you just definitely need to be smart about how you use him. All right, moving on to number 11, we've got Cardinal Richelieu. Cardinal is part of the Musketeer family as well. Average mana speed, class is Sorcerer, and their ether power is Fiend Resist. They have that same passive and family bonus as Milady de Winter that we just went over a couple heroes ago. That passive is the damage on special skill plus cover damage. When this character receives damage from special skills or in place of a character in cover, there's a 60% chance of dealing 20% of the received damage on all enemies. And for Cardinal's special skill, the Web of Lies, they're going to deal 330% damage to all enemies, summons a Spy Fiend for all enemies. The Fiend damages the enemy with 45% attack every turn. The Spy Fiend absorbs healing and disappears when it has absorbed health equal to 30% of its target's max health. At the end of each turn, the Spy Fiend steals one of its target's dispellable buffs and gives it to one character on the opposite team. So we just looked at another Fiend hero a few heroes ago, and why do I have Cardinal Richelieu higher than Fortuna, you ask? Well, for one, their stats are slightly better, not a lot. I think Fortuna's max power was like 1170 or something like that, and Cardinal's is 1240, but the damage is significantly higher. Fortuna dealt 150% damage to all enemies, where Cardinal deals 330% damage to all enemies. The Fiend has 30% health instead of 22% for Fortuna. And then more importantly, in my opinion, is this last part. So Fortuna's Fiends gave minus 36% attack to all enemies that had one of those Fiends. Cardinal's Fiends are going to steal one of its target's dispellable buffs and give it to one character on the opposite team. So that could definitely be extremely useful in my opinion if you use them against the right heroes. And that is why we have Cardinal at number 11. And Cardinal's only going to cost you 10 souls. Moving on to number 10, we've got Jana. Jana is part of the Masked God family. Average mana speed, class is Wizard, and her ether power is attack up. Jana's going to have the same family bonus and passives as Fortuna that we just looked at a few heroes ago, with that starter little minion with 8% health and 8% attack, I think it is. And then the passive of Cleanse on Minion Death. This character is cleansed of status ailments when minion owned by them is destroyed. Again, that's going to count for that little starter minion and then any other minions that get cast on Jana throughout the battle. And her special skill, these 2 sides of the moon. First, she's going to deal 470% damage to the target. The target gets minus 44% defense for 4 turns, deals 470% damage to a random different enemy. The target on the second hit gets minus 44% mana generation for 4 turns. If there's only one enemy left in a battle, or if you're going up against a Titan, both of those hits will hit the same enemy. And speaking of Titans, Jana would definitely be very useful for Titans. One, because she gets to attack the same enemy twice with that 470% damage, so you're basically hitting the Titan for 940% damage, but also because of that minus 44% defense for 4 turns. Obviously, any heroes that give defense down, elemental defense down, or anything like that are going to be extremely useful for Titans. So kind of a simple yet very effective hero in my opinion, and that is why we have her at number 10. If you want Jana, she's going to cost you 15 souls. Moving on to number 9, and this is probably going to surprise a lot of people, but we have our first 20 soul option, and that's going to be Mad Hammer. Mad Hammer is part of the Goblin family, average mana speed, barbarian class, and her ether power is attack up. And I do think that Mad Hammer is a decent hero, but definitely not worth 20 souls in my opinion. I think that there are much better options, including several other heroes that are lower cost for souls. Her passive is effects on special skill. She is going to have a 50% chance to perform the following actions when this character casts their special skill, deals 90% damage to all enemies, and all enemies get minus 25% accuracy for 3 turns. And for her special skill, the Heedless Hammer Flurry, she's going to deal 500% damage to the target, has a 50% chance to deal 450% damage to a random different enemy, summons a Black Boar Mega Minion with 62% health and 230% attack inherited from the caster. The target hit by the Black Boar Mega Minion can't get their other status ailments cleansed from special skills for 4 turns. If that Black Boar Minion did anything else other than what that says, then she probably would be at least a couple spots higher on my list, but that Mega Minion is pretty useless in my opinion. That's very specific for the types of heroes that you're going to be going up against. She is a cool hero. Again, she's going to deal 500% damage to at least one target and then potentially 450% damage to a second one. The Mega Minion has 62% health, so that's a decent amount, obviously, and the 230% attack each turn is a decent amount as well. Not as high as some of the Garrison Guards that are in the game now with the 300% attack Mega Minions, and her attack itself is not that high, considering the fact that she came out probably about a year and a half ago now at this point in the game. So the attack from the Mega Minion and her attack, even from her special, is not going to be as high as some of those other newer heroes in the game, obviously. But again, I really just wish that Mega Minion did something else, had some counterattack like some of the other Goblin heroes like Scroll Beast and Boom and Fang, which was available in the last Soul Exchange event. But Boom and Fang also doesn't have an attack like Mad Hammer does, so I guess you gotta take one or the other. But anyway, I just wish that Mega Minion did something else other than what it does. All right, so moving on to number 8, we are actually gonna stay with goblins and talk about Smart Tongue, who would cost you 15 souls if you wanted to get her. She is, of course, again, part of the Goblin family, also average mana speed. Her class is Ranger, and her ether power is Ailment Immunity. She's gonna have the same exact passive as Mad Hammer with the effects on special skills. She'll have a 50% chance to perform the following actions when this character casts their special skill, deals 90% damage to all enemies, and all enemies get minus 25% accuracy for 3 turns. And for her special skill, the Goblin Serenade, she's going to add a Wither effect where all enemies get minus 350 attack, reduces max health for all enemies by 700. This effect is stronger against targets with boosted health. Max health cannot be lower than 30% of the original max health. Any boosted health is reduced by an additional 700. All enemies are going to get minus 45% defense against special skills for 4 turns. So Smart Tongue actually does quite a bit when you take into consideration the Wither effects for the minus 350 attack, reducing the max health of all enemies, and then also all enemies getting minus 45% defense for special skills for 4 turns. I have Smart Tongue, Single Limit Broken, and I used her for a very long time until she eventually got too outdated for my roster, but I still think that she has a lot of value, especially if you're going to go up against somebody like a Toon Vivica or even Rosalind or any healers that do not have an overheal factor, because you can just continue to hammer that max health reduction against them and bring a couple snipers and then just start picking people off one by one. And while you're reducing that max health, you're giving everybody minus 350 attack so that they can't do nearly as much damage against you. And once that Wither effect goes off twice, it is very hard for anybody on the opposite team to do any damage against you. And while I'm thinking of it, I would not bring her against Rosalind. I don't know why I said that originally. Rosalind has a passive with the guard rally where every 4 turns, all wither effects get wiped. So you want to make sure you do not bring Smart Tongue against any of those Garrison Guard heroes that have the guard rally with the removing wither. There are a couple of them that have guard rally that remove growth effects from all enemies. A couple that come to mind are Flamehide and Ferris. I think there might be one other one, but I can't think of who that is right now. But definitely make sure you do not bring Smart Tongue against any Garrison Guard heroes that have that guard rally with the removing wither. Definitely a very effective hero though, and that is why we have her at number 8. Moving on to number 7, probably the most controversial hero in this soul exchange event. We have Guardian Hippo, who is going to cost you 20 souls if you do want her. She is part of the Guardian family. Her mana speed is fast, her class is Barbarian, and her ether power is Fiend Resist. She does not have any passives, and her special skill is pretty simple. The Brutal Support. For the next 3 turns, this character deals 225% damage to all enemies each time another ally casts their special skill, and all allies get plus 34% mana generation for 3 turns. So if you are somebody who likes to play mono and use 5 of the same color in your war battles, then Guardian Hippo could be a very good option for you, especially if you've got other fast mana speed heroes, because if you fire Guardian Hippo first and then fire your other 4 blue specials, she's basically going to deal 900% damage to all of your enemies. If you were to pair that with an attack up hero to start off right after her, then that is going to be even higher. And I really wanted to have her higher on my list, but her stats being outdated as they are, I just couldn't justify having her higher. Actually, I think that she might actually have the lowest individual power out of anybody in this soul exchange event at 1133. I still think she has a lot of value for people who use her the right way. And if you are somebody who likes to play mono, then she could definitely be very useful for you, like I said, and also could be very useful in challenge events and alliance quests and other events where it's common for people to play mono. So I think that she could have some value there also. And it's actually because of her potential effectiveness in challenge events where I am actually considering taking her because of that. She is one of the few heroes in this soul exchange event that came out more than 2 years ago. So if you did choose her, she would be eligible for the next hero coach event to be able to get up to 90 without costing you any resources, just some gems. So that's also something to take into consideration. But for most people who play 3-2 or 4-1, or if you are in a higher level alliance and going up against 7,500 to 8,000 defenses, then Guardian Hippo is probably not going to last long on those war teams. If you're going to grab Guardian Hippo, I think that you really need to have a very, very specific use for her and a specific team that you're going to be putting her on. Or again, if you're going to be using her for challenge events, then that would be a good option also. But if you do not have a specific need for her, then I probably would stay away and grab somebody better. All right, so at this point right now, we are going to be moving on to number 6, and we have not looked at any dark heroes yet in this ranking, and we are going to be moving on to number 6, our first dark hero, and who I would consider to be the best value pick in this soul exchange event. We've got Voidar. She is part of the Astral Elves family. Her mana speed is average, her class is Paladin, and her ether power is defense up. Before we take a look at her passive and special skill, I do want to call out the fact that she's part of the Astral Elves family, not the Astral Dwarves family. The Dwarves recently got a buff where their family bonus makes it so that they resist negative mana ailments and instant mana reduction from Ferris or anybody else that gives those ailments if you have 2 or more of them on your team. But that's for the Dwarves, that is not for the Astral Elves, so she does not have that. But for her passive, she's actually got 2. The first is resist poison. This character has innate resistance against poison. And then her second passive, all of the Astral Elves have this, the shared receive damage. 20% of the damage received by this character is shared with other allies. And then for her special skill, the Paradogon of Constellations, this special skill never misses its target, deals 620% damage to the target, heals all allies for 40% of the damage dealt, and all allies get plus 74% defense against special skills for 4 turns. So she does quite a bit, can be useful against sluggish because of the fact that she has that special skill that never misses targets. So you can use it on any of the heroes or enemies that are dancing, and you won't have to worry about it missing and getting that extra damage. Has a high snipe at 620% damage, is going to heal everybody, and also give all allies plus 74% defense against special skills. She does quite a bit, honestly, and she has a good overall individual power of 1380. That is the highest that we've looked at this point right now. I think there might be 2, maybe 3 heroes higher individual power than that, but that is pretty good at this point right now in a soul exchange event, and she's only going to cost you 10 souls. Like I said, I think that she is the best value pick in my opinion. Moving on to number 5, we've got Torbin. Torbin is part of the bear family. He is fast mana speed, fighter class, and his ether power is attack up. I do not have Torbin, but he looks like a really fun hero. We're going to take a look at his passive first, which is health recovery on buff received. This character recovers 5% health when they receive a buff or positive stack. And again, the bear family, they cannot receive defense ailments, and if you try to put that on them, then part of their family bonus, it makes it so that they get a defense buff instead, and they're going to get that 5% health when they receive that buff. And for his special skill, Mark of the Prey, the target receives 80% damage for all the damage their allies receive for 3 turns. The target gets minus 44% defense for 3 turns, and he is going to deal 200% damage to the target and nearby enemies. This is another hero that you're going to want to pair with some other red heroes, ideally fast or average speed heroes, and you're going to fire Torbin first and then those other damage dealing heroes. And if you've got strong enough heroes, then you could probably eliminate a target just with a couple specials. Definitely looks like a fun hero, and if you're not going up against Bernadette and Fergus teams everywhere, then he could definitely be a good option for you. If you would like to grab Torbin, he will cost you 15 souls. Moving on to number 4, we've got Ferris. Ferris is part of the Construct Core family. His mana speed is average, and his class is Rogue. His ether power is Ailment Immunity. And Ferris has 2 passives. The first is Resist Special Skill Blocking. This character has innate resistance against ailments that block special skills. So that's going to include Sleep, and then also the dancing effect from Von Rothber or Silence or anything like that. And then also, it's been in beta testing for quite some time that these heroes that have this Resist Special Skill Blocking are going to be able to resist Bernadette's paintings. I feel like it's been in beta for like 2 months. It's not yet in the game. It should be coming any day now. There hasn't been any indication that it's not going to come into the game, but that is definitely something worth noting, that should be coming. So if you do grab Ferris, then automatically he's going to resist Bernadette's paintings. You don't have to worry about casting a special skill or anything like that. It's just going to happen automatically. And his second passive is the Corrosive Core. So he's got the Construct Core, and when he casts his special skill, all enemies are going to receive corrosive poison for 3 turns. With a fully charged Corrosive Core, the Corrosive Poison deals 124 poison damage and lowers the target's mana generation by minus 13% each turn, deals extra damage to minions and mega minions. The poison damage is scaled by the amount of charge in the core. All charge is exhausted when the core is activated. And for his special skill, the Corroding Cutlass, he's going to deal 390% damage to the target and nearby enemies. The target and nearby enemies receive 576 bleed damage over 3 turns, and the target and nearby enemies get minus 60% defense against nature for 3 turns. So he is a very good option for Titans if you don't already have a green elemental defense down hero. But Ferris is going to give a lot of damage between the 390% damage to the target and nearby enemies, those 3 enemies getting the bleed damage over 3 turns, and then the Construct Core with the Corrosive Poison and getting 124 poison damage every turn. That's a lot of damage to 3 enemies, and then the poison damage obviously to everybody. Solid hero, lots of damage, and will eventually be able to block Bernadette's paintings, and that is why I have him at number 4, and he will cost you 20 souls if you want to go with Ferris. Moving on to number 3, and this is probably somebody who I think will surprise some people. I've got Aramus. He is part of the Musketeer family. He is average mana speed, his class is Ranger, and his ether power is Heal Increase. He's got the same passive and family bonus as some of the other Musketeer family members that I already went over. I'm not going to read it again, but for his special skill, Charmer's Blades, he's going to deal 375% damage to the the target and nearby enemies. He's going to boost all allies' health by 30% of the damage dealt, and all allies are immune to new status ailments for 3 turns. This effect cannot be dispelled. The caster gets plus 30% defense for 3 turns. That third part of his special is why I have him ranked so high. All allies being immune to new status ailments for 3 turns and it not being able to be dispelled. That means it will work against Bernadette because of the fact that she is so useful, because of the fact that she dispels first before giving the painting. So if you are able to cast Aramus before Bernadette goes off, nobody's going to get any painting. I know for me, when I go up against Bernadette, and I usually go up against 3 Bernadette tanks every war and 3 Fergus tanks every war, but when I go up against Bernadette, I try to bring at least 3 colors of different counters against Bernadette, so having another purple option would be very helpful for me, especially in Rush War when we go into those situations. But I face a lot of Bernadette tank teams. My alliance probably goes up against around 15 or so Fergus and Bernadette tanks total every single war. Great option, and that is why we have him at number 3. If you do want to go with Aramus, he will cost you 15 souls. Moving on to number 2, we've got the only real main healer out of everybody in this soul exchange event. There's a couple heroes that have a healing factor, like Aramus that we just looked at. Voidar has a little bit of healing based off of the damage that she deals. Teddy, I guess you could consider a main healer, but it's a heal over time. We'll look at Meg's special in a moment, but she is part of the Opera family. Her mana speed is average, her class is Paladin, and her ether power is defense up. She has 2 passives. The first is resist defense ailments. This character has innate resistance against status ailments that affect defense, does not apply to status ailments that affect elemental defense. The second passive is heal if the status ailment expires or is cleared. This character receives 10% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated from them. This effect can activate only once per turn. And for her special, the Deceptive Small Talk, first she's going to recover 60% health for all allies, cleanses the latest status ailments from all allies, and gives them to a random target on the enemy team. All cleansable status ailments are uncleansable for all enemies for the remaining turns of the status ailment. And then all allies get plus 60% defense for 4 turns. Meg is a solid option in this soul exchange event, especially if you do not have any strong healers or are looking for an additional strong healer. She has a total individual power of 1427, gives 60% health for everybody, gives status ailments that are currently on your allies to the opposing team, makes them undispellable, and then she's going to give plus 60% defense for everybody for 4 turns. Meg is a very useful hero in my opinion, and that is why we have her at number 2. If you do want to go with her, she will cost you 20 souls. And moving on to number 1, I've got Costume Annubis. He is part of the Moon family. His mana speed is average, class is fighter, and ether power is dodge. He has a couple passives, and when you have his costume, the first one changes to 100% chance to perform the following actions, where it is originally 60% chance, but when he casts a special skill, he's going to have a 100% chance to deal 70% damage to all enemies and dispel the latest dispellable buff from all enemies. His second passive is mana on status ailment received. This character gains 5% mana when they receive a status ailment or negative stack. And for his special skill, Mark of the Jackal, inflicts the target with greed for 3 turns. The enemies with greed prevent other enemies from receiving friendly effects of their allies' special skills. All enemies receive 693 poison damage over 3 turns, and all enemies get minus 28% defense for 3 turns. If you are not familiar with what greed is, this is something that you definitely should read up on or go look up on YouTube some videos on how to use greed. I do not have Annubis, but I do have Silverpaw, who gives everlasting greed. Obviously, that's going to be more useful than greed for 3 turns. But what greed does is that it makes it so that all of the other enemies, except for the one that you cast the greed on, the other enemies can't gain any healing, they can't gain any minions, any other mega minions, any status effect buffs. They literally can't get anything. It even makes it so that nobody can get revived. So if you were to cast that on your enemy reviver, even if she goes off, it's going to make it so that nobody else can get revived, can get healed, any status effect buffs. Again, no minions or mega minions. It's an extremely useful tool, but you need to be very smart in how you use it, especially where Annubis only casts it for 3 turns. Annubis being part of the Season 5 heroes and having a costume. He just got a buff recently, so his total individual power is now up to 1548. This is the updated version. I just snagged this image a couple days ago when we just had the season 5 event. So he has a very useful special. He's also going to cleanse 1 buff from all enemies as part of his passive. So that is going to happen every single time his special skill gets cast. Plus he's going to give 70% damage to everybody. I know the damage is not obviously going to be a lot, but dispelling a buff could also be very useful as well. So a lot of good things going for Annubis, and that is why we have him at number 1 in this soul exchange event. And if you do want him, he will cost you 20 souls. So those are your options for the May 2025 soul exchange event. Let me know what you all think of my rankings, who you are thinking about taking, and if you are not sure of who you should take, drop a comment down below. Let me know who you're thinking about, who you have on your team for some of your key players and your key heroes that you've got already. Or if you want to hit me up on the Line app, my contact information will be in the description of the video. You can contact me there, send me your roster, and I can give you an opinion on who I think you should take as well. I know a lot of you watch my war videos, so you know that I've got a pretty advanced roster. As far as who I am thinking about taking, honestly, I'm looking at Aramus for another option against Bernadette, and then Guardian Hippo, actually, I'm looking at as well, because I do like to compete for events. I try to go for top 100 in almost every challenge event and tower event and alliance quest and stuff like that. So she could be pretty useful on a blue mono team. But for me and the teams that I go up against in war, honestly, Aramus is really the only one that would be useful for me, or Ferris once that construct core family with the being able to resist the paintings from Bernadette. But green going up against red isn't really the best of options either. So Aramus is really the only one that would help me from a war perspective. All right, that is gonna do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy it or found it helpful. And if you did, hit that like button, make sure you sub to my channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.